here to begin with session number 1, and the topic for the same would be a fireside chat on emergence of brand India for stainless steel, enhancing exports and fostering emerging markets.
Now the topic is very clear: emergence of brand India for stainless steel, enhancing exports and fostering emerging markets. Now this is where our issue is. So I'll start off it from Mr. Vijay Sharma. Two issues which is of concern in exports. One thing is India wants a brand India standardized common logo for everything that is being exported. So you have a common logo, and below that you have your company's logo with whatever standards you want to put. So is it feasible? Is it not feasible? How you want to go about? Because that is the kind of a branding India is something thought of. And with that brief answer, I will like you to talk about in the international market, what is the roadmap you have in mind? Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Okay, Namaskar, good afternoon. Very pertinent question related with the Made in India brand to be recognized internationally. You'll be pleasantly surprised that Government of India, led by the Honorable PM and then being executed by the Commerce and Industry Ministry, and of course the line ministries are taking a vital role. The plan is that whatever is being exported out of India, it should have a unique, recognizable Made in India logo. So this initiative in fact started since last September, and of course Steel Ministry and it's quite aggressively pursuing it, and rather Steel Ministry, our parent ministry, is leading this initiative among all other, whether the nodal ministries or even those products which don't have any ministry. Spirit here is that while the current way of the labeling of the product continues, however, similar look and feel should be there in all the products being exported out of the country, which will have, in addition to your existing logo, which will have a unique logo which will be shared by all the steel producers one by one. And yes, then there are few changes also which will be required by the domestic producers. Those changes are not related with the current hardware being used by them. They are related with some software upgradations which are very, very minimal. Steel Ministry had chosen SAIL and Jindal Stainless to lead it as a pilot companies, and we and also other 4 major steel integrated producers are practically completed the total initiative, and we are very hopeful that Honorable Jyotiraditya Scindia ji will be giving the green signal. Then all to start with phase 1, all the 5 major steel players and Jindal Stainless, and they will be rolling it out, and parallelly Steel Ministry will be taking it to other steel and stainless steel producers. So it will have a standardized, when I use the word standardized, it is look and feel only. It will have one QR code, but yes, Quality Council of India has been nominated by the PMO and the Commerce Ministry to implement it. And government would like to know who is exporting what. So some information will be required to be shared by the government, because branding is a matter of a huge trust. Logo sharing is a very, very complex process. So government would also like to ensure that whatever is being exported, it meets the expectation that will get built globally about Make in India products. It's a very, very heartening move, and I'm very hopeful that very shortly it will be launched and all the exporters of India will be greatly benefited. There will be minor changes, modifications required, but to stainless steel fraternity, we can offer our services to help you to expedite it directly also, and through our association is the also. So be on the watch out. Something good is going to happen regarding branding.
That will require for you to modify your software of imprinting at a particular length of whatever you are manufacturing for export, because you are anyway meeting the standards of the importer to whom you are exporting. So that will have to come up into an agreed look and feel of it. It's not changing your manufacturing process. It's not changing the standards, what you are using, what your client is expecting from you, but it is a question of branding. So when we are talking of export, that's the first window you will have to cross as we proceed ahead into this. My question now to is Mr. Rajesh Chauhan. I will like you to talk on 2 things. One is that when we are talking about, as a client, as a user, definitely I have a cheaper option of galvanized steel. Why should I come for a stainless steel? So what are the convincing random thoughts in commercial point of view you will like to suggest to the clients who are buying domestically. That why should they go for an SS as an alternative vis-a-vis a galvanized carbon steel? Over to you, Mr. Chauhan. And then when we are talking about it, then when there is a dip in the export, so what percentage we should walk in exports? How much we should work on the two markets of domestic and export? So can there be 100% export-oriented units, or is there that 20% is export and rest 80% they focus on the domestic market? What is the kind of strategy you will like to suggest? Over to you.
I would first like to comment on what Mr. Vijay Sharma has just presented. I mean, we are so busy in exporting that this is a news to me. This is a news to me actually. I mean, I was not aware. My company is not aware.
It is not yet public.
Yeah,
it's a work in progress.
But it's a very welcome move because when we go and meet our clients globally, I think India is a brand which is very well recognized by all customers anywhere in the world. So if this branding is done, I think this will be a additional USP for us. I'm sure for others also. Coming to your question about galvanized, actually we are in long products and galvanized does not play a much role there. But anyways, I mean, cost of ownership of stainless steel, if you look at the life cycle, is much lower than any other metal or material, whatever you may call it. I mean, galvanized, surely buying cost is cheaper, but if you look at the life cycle cost, I have few slides which I will present later, but I'll show you a picture. I mean, so you can see the picture here. This is what SMR shows in their, I have borrowed it from them. That's a carbon steel pier which was built in 1969 in Cancun, Mexico. And right next to it is a stainless steel pier which was built 30 years back. And this photo was taken, I think, in 2021. So you can see, I mean, nobody needs to say anything more about stainless steel being a preferred material choice for any end user. What was your next question? Exports. If I talk about Viraj, since the day we started, we were 100% EOU. We slowly started selling some quantity in domestic, but even after 30 years of operation, 85% of our revenue comes from exports. And we do sell in domestic, but our focus is only on exports. For sure, if once we expand, domestic will be a key market for us because growth in domestic is much more than what the world market is growing at. If I talk about current year, I think stainless demand is growing by more than 10% a year. That's not the case anywhere else in the world. So for sure, domestic is a attractive market for any producer, and the strategy for any producer should focus around this. The growth in India has to be captured by all producers. That's my view.
Very well said, Rakesh ji. In fact, when the war was between the cement concrete bridge vis-a-vis the steel bridge, exactly the calculations were put forward to the clients as to what is the cost capex increase and what is the gain in zero maintenance for 100 years. Exactly, I think a similar calculation you will have to bring in to convince the consumers and convince the customers that it's worth putting that extra capex when you're going ahead. And in infra world, maximum expenditure is by government, where they are very sensitive on these L1 issues. And therefore, having a life cycle cost there, it is giving them a window to justify that extra capex spending. So that arithmetic has to be very, very clear whenever you're making a proposal. And thank you so much for flagging it. What Rakesh ji very correctly flagged, because the graph of the domestic consumption of stainless steel is going to be so fast, instead of putting all eggs in one basket, you will have to create products both for domestic as well as export markets in your expansion plans. And of course, the BIS stands by you for giving a quality product both internally and for the external world. Now, Mr. Gupta, over to you. I will like you to focus on this when you look at it. When you look, how do you place the market of galvanized steel, where those with zinc coating and everything, they are also trying to expand their market, expand their production. And stainless steel is also doing it. So is there a scope in Indian market of balancing the two, that both can coexist in which kind of constructions galvanized can be okay, and which kind of construction there is a no to galvanized and yes to stainless steel. So that, as well as I will request you that when you're working on this, looking at the what Rakesh ji has mentioned, expansion of domestic market, in the pie graph, how do you see any new investor, any new expansion plans, any new entrant and old entrant, how they should work out their arithmetic when they are going ahead with it? Over to you.
Actually, galvanized versus stainless steel is a very difficult comparison because both have totally different properties. Galvanized is aesthetically we cannot use galvanized, where we can use stainless steel. The return of investment, if we talk about in stainless steel, the return of investment is quite encourageable, and strength, of course, strength is very much there. And galvanized on mild steel, galvanizing can easily break. We cannot band galvanized material. If we band the material, it will get the coating will get removed and the rusting will start happening. So galvanizing cannot be compared easily with stainless steel. Of course, stainless steel can be used in pharmaceutical equipments, food processing equipments. It's environmental friendly also because of recyclability. So I think stainless steel cannot be easily compared with galvanized, for sure. Yeah.
Rakesh ji, it's for you. Can you just tell us that what are the kind of new products? What are the products we are exporting today? And which is the new arena which we have not touched in the export, where there is a demand in the external market for exports? Please.
Ma'am, currently, if I talk about Viraj, we are focused more on commodity products. So that's what we export the world over, and that's what we are famous for. What we don't do is the niche products like the duplex steel grades or some high alloy stainless steel grades. That's where the European mills or the American mills where they play. So that's one area which has a lot of potential. There are margins and there is market which is growing. So that's one area which we are focusing on, and we are sure that once we have those products, the technology to make those products, that would be an additional maybe 20-25% revenue for us. So that's one area we are looking at.
Very, very rightly said. One additional question to you. Is it that we are not capable of making it, or is it only a question of time?
Ma'am, there is no issue in capability. If Europe can do it, then we can do it better for sure. It's a question of time.
Very right. Because what has been said very rightly, that if you go for these specialized kind of alloys and products, your margins are going to be very, very high. Very, very high. So this is one niche area where Indian stainless steel has not thought of entering the export market. There, India is like a vacuum. It's like a knot there. The normal commodities, what rightly has been said, we have been exporting. So that is something at your table to think about it, that how quickly you are able to enter that market by getting those standards and by able to go ahead with it. Mr. Sharma, to you, what are the policy pain points? Like during the roundtable, it was very rightly said that it came like literally like a wall when suddenly the export duty was imposed. No country will ever impose export duty when you want to increase your exports, and no gain in that, except for a little financial gain in your arithmetic of budget. So that was one thing which was flagged, but there are many more pain points. Over to you.
Madam, I would like to expand your question, and answer to your specific question will be part of my bigger answer. First, I would like to comment on, you asked about galvanized. A very simple data, last 40 years, CAGR of 5 competing metals, steel including galvanized, aluminium, copper, stainless steel, and zinc. 40 years global CAGR 2.5%. Within that, stainless steel 5.35%. So that speaks about where the opportunities are there. Comparing it with Indian growth story, last 10-year CAGR, we are growing on an average 1.7 times of world stainless steel. So that is an opportunity here. Now, coming to exports, you asked specifically about policy. I will take a step back. Exports is a very, very glamorous word. Bag उठाएंगे, globe trotting पे चले जाएंगे. But I would like to be a little pragmatic. All of us know.
सर मेरे साथ अलग से बात करना है इसके लिए.
All of us know the usual reasons why we want to export. Benchmarking, forex, global visibility, aspirations. ये सभी के लिए everybody wants it. But I think to me, exports is a sort of a compulsion, not as a consistent compulsion. And this statement is contradictory to what your buyer abroad wants. They want consistency. The point here is India, 4 million ton financial year 23, simple mathematics, 7.5% pessimistic growth, 6.25% practical GDP growth. This 4 million ton will become 20 million ton by 2047. Capacity comes in blocks, growth happens in degrees. तो जब capacity block में आएगी तो बीच में क्या करेंगे? So there the exports becomes a compulsion. But the challenge is domestic has to be passion, rightly said by my friend. So exports has to be strategic. So export is a compulsion. Dilemma is how we can ensure to be consistent. You were asking how much should be the percentage. There is no straight answer to that because when the capacity comes, in case of stainless steel, I believe that in long product, 500,000 ton is a good competitive capacity. In case of stainless steel, multiples of 1 million ton is a good competitive capacity, but domestic में तो बिकेगा नहीं. So that becomes a compulsion. But we are not alone in the world. China already has got more than 30% capacity, additional capacity. Everywhere there is additional capacity. And we have been reading the word VUCA, world is VUCA. Recently I learned world is BANI also. VUCA we all know, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. BANI, brittle, anxious, non-linear and incomprehensive. And also in the last 3-4 years, we saw certain black swans, which we have never seen earlier. Black swans means जो कभी-कभी दिखते हैं. Pandemic was black swan. Ukraine is black swan. Commodity recovery, it's a positive black swan. So world is very, very VUCA. World is also having the capacities. So there has to be a strategy. Export करना भी है और ठीक तरीके से करना भी है. And the niche products, madam, what you said, in India, you will be surprised. In stainless steel, the word niche, people know the word grade 316L. 316L के ऊपर के जो ग्रेड हैं वो पूरी कंजम्पशन के अंदर 8% में आते हैं. Which they are the champions of duplex. Thanks for developing it, Rajiv. But it is what? 1.5% of the world's stainless steel consumption. So there is a limitation in the word niche also. Beyond that, you cannot go. So within that, there is again a competition. Who will be able to compete against Outokumpu in terms of the technology? But yes, we are able to compete now. So exports is a compulsion. Exports is also a challenge. Now coming closer to your specific question, how do we address it? Government possibly can take such decisions, and with great efforts, possibly we can push them to revert those decisions. But is it really in our hand? Efforts करेंगे, but ऐसा हो जाता है. Export duty was also a black swan for whatever reason. For whatever reason, we are thankful to the honorable current Minister of Steel that he helped us. But when export is a compulsion, we need to do something. Export तो करना ही है ना, आप कर रहे हो, हम भी कर रहे हैं, we have to do it. So to me, I would like to put it in two parts. One is the competitive, our own leveraging the strengths, competitiveness, operational efficiency, IR 4.0, big players can do it, we are able to do it, we are doing it, they can do it, they can do it. And instead of the word niche, I would like to use the word decommoditization. How do I servicify the manufacturing? How can I sell the service slash solution instead of the product? मुझे ऐसा लगता है हम ये कर सकते हैं. And like he said that Make in India को different treat किया जाता है. I will share with you a very, very emotional first-hand experience. There was something being discussed of some curbs on Asia in Europe. तो मेरे को मेरे कस्टमर बड़े बोले, अरे यार एशिया के ऊपर ये होने वाला है, यूरोप ये करने वाला है. तो मेरा मुंह उतर गया. He noted it. वो बोले, आपको क्या दिक्कत है? मैंने कहा, I am in Asia. No, you're Indian. That is the difference of India among the Asians in the European eyes, and I think a lot of credit goes to all of the exporters of India, because we are relatively, reasonably well behaved when we, most of them, कुछ अपने defaulters हो सकते हैं. So, but this is the general. Now, export is very glamorous, like I said. We have to be a little cautious. Today's export can become a challenge for our tomorrow's export, because for the manufacturers, हम कितनी भी बातें कर लें, one family, blah, 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 I think that all the producer countries are shifting from globalization to nationalization. Section 232, duties by Europeans, now the smarter version of non-tariff barrier, CBAM. So everybody is protecting their industry. So we have to be careful. What do we do? So that tomorrow when we start banking too heavily on exports, something like this happens. What we will do? I would like to divide the world into two parts. One is the producing block, another is non-producing block, depending on the product category you are in. Be very, very careful. In the producing block, they are ruthless. They impose punitive duties. Handling the anti-dumping duty or CVD process is very time-consuming. So what do we do? I think we need to be very, very careful about the product mix. And believe in me, I am speaking from my more than 30 years experience, traveling to more than 50 countries and hundreds of times. Be very, very careful about the product mix. Learn what are the protocols of WTO. It is a huge investment in trade defense department. Invest in that. Learn the methodology. Learn about something called PCN, so that have an internal trade defense audit team, so that you are not surprised. Believe me, it is an investment. It will help a lot. So this was for the producing countries. Something unique for non-producing countries also, because there the challenge is different. All the producing countries are eyeing there. You are not again alone there. There, I think, the challenge of anti-dumping duty or CVD is not there for sure, but China will also be operating there. Europeans will also be operating there. Americans will also be operating there. How do you create your own niche or whatever word you say? I think there the downstream hand-holding, ecosystem ownership, which is also relevant in case of the producing also, that can help you in creating our consistent presence the way these two gentlemen have been able to create, despite of a very candid admission. I really appreciate. इन्होंने खुद बोला कि हम commodity के अंदर ज़्यादा हैं. It means he is a evidence of what I am trying to say. That means they are doing something different in commodity. That's why they are able to sell. So partnerships. So these are in addition to the usual jargon. CRM करेंगे जी, हम लोग warehouse खोलेंगे, हम R&D करेंगे, innovativeness करेंगे. These are all given. I am talking beyond that. And of course, now finally, coming to your question, ma'am, government support, of course, as a industry, branding का मैंने आपसे share किया, FTAs are going to play a very vital role in supporting our exports compulsion. We meet here, we talk here, थोड़ा गर्मा गर्मी होती है, थोड़े दिन WhatsApp करते हैं, उसके बाद सारे busy हो जाते हैं. We are never together. I think through the associations, we must be able to influence the FTAs, the way we have been able to influence UAE FTA, Australia FTA, melt and pour condition has been introduced there. So that is one. And of course, the consistent policies. When we use the word, consistent, I think together we should keep on highlighting to government also. When we are talking about brand India, sharing the logo, or logo is a trust. We have to demonstrate that trust. There cannot be ad hoc duties like this. We are hopeful that together we should be able to tell the government the right picture. And you know why the export duty had happened? My last 10 seconds. Post-COVID, commodity boom happened. That was also a black swan. Commodity boom जो था ये, it was I think 5th in the world in the last 100 years. Infrastructure के अंदर भी बढ़ नहीं थे हर किसी के अंदर. हमें ऐसा लगता था कि ये स्टेनलेस स्टील का ही बढ़ रहा है. Rather, at that point of time was, अगर किसी को प्रॉफिट नहीं हो रहा था तो उसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए था. Because everybody was making profits. तो गवर्नमेंट को ऐसा लगा कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के प्राइस बढ़ने में स्टील का हाथ है, हमारा कोलेटरल डैमेज हो गया. नॉट रियलाइजिंग स्टेनलेस स्टील एज ऑन टुडे इज हार्डली 12% इन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एज ऑन टुडे. That too in the very, very limited aesthetic applications. The government did not realize that. Even government also did not realize कि स्टेनलेस स्टील तो सारा का सारा इलेक्ट्रिक आर्क फर्नेस से बनता है. उनको यही था कि ये कोल का चक्कर चल रहा है इसके अंदर. We never do. So I think somewhere as a industry, we should together be able to put across the right things with the government. Hopefully, they will be more consistent in making the changes in the policies. Lastly, हम बड़े upbeat हैं China +1. We are very upbeat. Yes, we are candidate. But it doesn't happen like that. China +1 के बाद होना चाहिए China plus India. It has not happened yet. After that, it should be India plus China. And then only India will come. So it's a long journey. All of us have to contribute, but we can do it. That's how we have been able to export, and we have been able to demonstrate and build that trust among our overseas friends. So that is my take on exports.
Absolutely right. What has been rightly said about FTA, RCEP was completely prevented because all of you were one, right? And at the last moment, it was not signed by the head of this country. It stopped at that level. Similarly, in FTA, to keep steel out and stainless steel out has to be a combined pressure. We have statistics with us of Korea and Japan as to what negative impact was there because of the FTA, and it continues to be there. So therefore, it is very important to have a joint voice when you are moving ahead on this, very rightly flagged, because that pressure has to be built in when all these things are discussed in a closed chamber of one particular ministry, which treats everything together as one basket. But then the impacts are different. So it is very, very important. You talked about VUCA, right? So now VUCA has to be turned from negative to positive. You can consider that V is to be versatile. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. During pandemic, the savior for steel industry was export because domestic market was closed. Now post-pandemic, there is a balance. And what very rightly said, the export market has to be consistent. So that percentage of your presence has to be there in the international market so that you can play both of them. You have to be versatile. C, of course, is consistent, which I mentioned about it. U is that uncertainty you have to convert into certainty. You have to be certain about supply chain. If you have committed to somebody, they rely on you, they are happy with your quality, there has to be a certainty that you are going to supply them at competent rates, deliver them at time. There is no other escape from it. And A is, of course, an add-on as to the new products which you keep on doing. So same VUCA you can convert into your advantage when you are moving ahead that, okay, those are red signals, but then they can be converted into green when you are moving ahead with it. On policy corrections, you have to be constantly in dialogue, and there has to be a media reports on anything negative that is going. That is very important because that echoes your sound, that gives strength to your sound, and that is the way you go about. Now I come to you before we take the questions. Last but not the least, I would like you to work upon this, the area which we have not covered. What could be the joint endeavor you think are the points which are, see, all of you are competing with each other, but there are some common points. Today, the world is of SROs, the self-regulating authorities in every sector. Especially in IT world, we are talking about it everywhere. In microfinance world, we say, no. First peer group cleaning is important, then you come to the regulator. Because regulator hits very wrongly, rightly, badly. So before that, what kind of an association can bring in which is non-conflicting of common interest to each one of you? Over to you.
I feel on the common background or common platform, we have to work on the safeguarding the domestic market with tools of anti-dumping. Like China is also a big threat for Indian market. So we can definitely work together to safeguard our domestic market with the tools of anti-dumping measures, especially from China and from other countries as well. Like in India, we are having a good capacities of making stainless steel, and slowly and steadily we are also working a lot on different niche market as well with niche products. Still, in India, we are importing a lot of products from Europe for specific industries, and slowly and steadily these products are also being manufactured in India also. So we should be, at the same time, we can be self-reliant, so we don't have to import stainless steel specifically from any other country. So we have to work together like CBAM, like Vijayji has discussed about CBAM. It is also a big problem in coming days. So we have to work together on that platform as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We can have one or two observations or questions, if any, to the panelists before we have a last word from each one of them. Anybody wants to contribute, feel free to do so. None? You are all agreeable to what they are saying? Then one line last comments, please. Starting from Rakesh ji.
I would just like to comment on what Mr. Vijay Sharma talked about exports. I am not in agreement that exports is a compulsion. Actually, exports is a well thought of strategy. I have few slides, but I will not take time showing that. What the long product manufacturers in India have achieved. I'm not sure if this figure is widely acknowledged in Indian government or any other forums. The Indian long product industry has a 20% of global stainless long product market share. I don't think any country in any product has, outside China, has such kind of market presence in any product. So if I talk about Viraj, we alone in the markets we operate, because China is a closed market, you cannot export to China. So if you remove China, and we have some trade issues in USA, so the markets where we operate, we have 24% share in those markets. So if we can achieve that, we are small kids. If we can achieve that, the flat industry can surely emulate us and work on these lines. And if they achieve just 33% of what we have achieved, India will be exporting $12 to $15 billion of stainless steel every year. And you don't then need to, run after government officials or, the ministers or anyone to put forward your points for influencing the policy or correcting the wrongs done in the policy. They will come to you. So that's my only submission.
I will respond to your observation later. I will like to have two comment. One is Vinodji said about import into India. Um, um, I think it's a very, very pertinent challenge being faced by the Indian producers. हमें भी कभी कभी गवर्नमेंट तंत्र में सुनना पड़ता है आप कम्पिटिटिव क्यों नहीं हो ऐसा मतलब कहा जाता है हमारे को एंड आई हर्ड डॉक्टर शर्मा इन अनदर फोरम दैट परहैप्स विद इन द फैक्ट्री गेट we are one of the most competitive manufacturers in the world. But the moment we get out of the factory gate, the uncompetitiveness starts. And I tell you why. Two components of the competitiveness, cost of logistics and cost of capital. All of us know the numbers, 14%, and government has recognized that they have to bring it closer to 10 by 2030. That's where Gati Shakti. I am very upbeat that it's going to happen. Cost of capital, we are seeing things are changing, it's improving. So when these two elements is making Indian producers uncompetitive by 8 to 10% in current scenario, हमारे तो अबीटा ही नहीं आते हैं 8 से 10%. How can you compete? But yes, it is a short-term challenge. I strongly believe that with the overall policy direction, we will be more competitive, at least on these two fronts. Now coming to China, हमें कहा जाता है आप लोग चाइनीज जैसे क्यों नहीं हो? But somehow when we are in this fraternity, we don't look beyond stainless steel. थोड़ा सा दूर देखेंगे, स्टील को देख लीजिए, एल्यूमिनियम देख लीजिए. Which is that product in the world where the capacity is more than 50% in China? Everywhere, all the products. In case of stainless steel, there is a excess capacity of 30%. और ये 30% जो है, ये जो नंबर है ये इंडिया के साल की कंजम्पशन से ज़्यादा है. And China entered into WTO also in 2000 and never entered into WTO also. That is why worldwide, practically all the products, the producing developed economies have imposed trade barriers on China because it is established that their governments provide minimum 20 to 30% non-WTO compliant incentives to the Chinese producers. तो Indian producer कहाँ से compete करेंगे? So I think domestic industry is only requesting to the government of India for a temporary level playing field so that we are able to make profits, and profit making is not a bad word. 4 million ton की consumption के against 7.5 million ton is the capacity. This is going to grow. This 4 million ton will reach 6.5 million ton in 2030, 20 million tons in 2047. कमाएंगे नहीं तो इन्वेस्ट कैसे करेंगे? कैपेसिटी नहीं होगी तो यही हमें कहा जाएगा कैपेसिटी नहीं है तो इंपोर्ट आने देते हैं. सो दिस इज ए वेरी वेरी सीरियस इशू. आई सेड in addition to the usual reasons of exports, benchmarking, global visibility, aspirations, hedge, forex, it is also a compulsion. It is not it is only the compulsion. So that's what I would like to clarify. Thank you.
It was quite an interactive discussions altogether. Like the main debate was maintaining domestic and export. How should we relate each other? I feel that maintaining flexibility to change between domestic and international markets based on the demand will be a good approach, so that we don't have to rely either on exports, either on domestic. And at the same time, we should also enhance our domestic production and customer base. Yeah.
Well said. Let me thank all the panelists and all attendees here. One thing is very clear, that the export market is welcoming you. You have a capability of producing what the world market needs, whether it's in quality or the quantity to which you are ready to walk. And with the expansion of infrastructure within the country, there will be a great demand on the domestic market. So it's a great opportunity for you to strategize to balance both, so that your presence is there in both the markets, and any hit anywhere, you are able to divert your products as you move ahead. All your eggs are not in one single basket. So this is where it is going to be. it is equally important that when you're producing these goods and you are working on a WTO compliant regime, anywhere, any country, and especially China, when they are not WTO compliant, it has to be brought in public domain. Because if you look at the export duty, it did not originate in the steel ministry. It did not originate in the commerce ministry who had this knowledge. It originated in a finance ministry where the knowledge were maybe one or two faces who went and said that, okay, we are downstream and we get very expensive steel, not realizing, one, it is heavily subsidized and dumped, and two, it has a higher nickel content. So with this kind of a problem, it is very important to spread this knowledge in public domain so that it is aware whom you think are not your line ministry, whom you think are not the policy makers who are going to decide, but who can hit you. And correcting that, it took, I think, 1.5 to 2 years for us to again get it rolled back. So it is very important that your approach has to be to educate, educate, and educate when you are moving ahead so that your one foot is stronger in the export market when you are going ahead with it, and you don't have this there should be windfalls. There should not be blockades when you are progressing in the market, when you are going ahead in the market, because you cannot change the price what you have committed just because a 30% export duty has come up. You will have to absorb that enhancement in the export duty. So that is very important to educate, that you can't play around with the export duty or export policies. It has to be consistent, credible as you move ahead. You are all capable of doing it. And similarly, the market in the domestic, again, it requires a lot of education as you move ahead. So I think we are quite on time so that we are able to catch up with it. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Once again, thanks to each of the panelists. Thank you.